Stay frosty and check out redzonecoins.com for the cheapest, fastest coins on the market. Use code DIRECTOR at checkout for 15% off. Kyoto brothers, what's up? It's the Director. Chargers fans, you know, from the title, you know, this is going to be a very, very difficult video to get through, but one that I feel is super important that we talk about because something might be happening in the coming hours, in the coming days, that maybe not everybody agrees with, but I think is very, very important. The subject is all revolving around the injury to Derwin James. Doesn't it seem like we can never get through a freaking offseason without a significantly devastating injury somewhere on the team? It's absolutely crazy to me, man. Absolutely crazy to me. I absolutely was so devastated when I heard this news. But you know what? We have to adapt, we have to figure it out, and we have to solve this issue. This is a must-solve issue for the Chargers. This isn't one of those injuries where you're just like, oh, you know, well, we'll figure it out as we go. No, this is something that there's probably a lot of moving pieces in Los Angeles right now trying to figure out what to do. Okay? So that's what we're going to talk about in today's video, the injury of Derwin James and what the Chargers should do to address it. Before we get started, guys, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps out a lot. Let's get into this video. Lights, camera, action. The injury of Derwin James. This is crazy, man. Let's get people caught up in case you didn't know. I mean, most Chargers fans know at this point, but Derwin James to miss significant time with a meniscus injury. Not good. Not good at all, dudes. Derwin James is such a huge, huge piece of this defense. And to have a piece like that missing at any given time, any given play, is going to be an issue that the Chargers need to solve. How long is Derwin James going to be out? Ian Rappaport tweets, the options for Derwin James pending further medical evaluation, a meniscus trim, which can be 4 or so weeks, or a full repair, which can be several months. Now, I think I did read that Derwin James did opt for the meniscus trim, which means that we're going to be without Derwin James for a majority, if not all of September, and if not, some part of October as well. To be safe, you know, I would say Chargers fans can expect him to be out until mid-October, you know, even with the meniscus trim. And that still makes me a little bit nervous because what are the chances of re-injury? Do I look like a doctor? I'm the director, not a doctor. So I don't know what the consequences are of getting a meniscus trim. I don't know what the actual timetable looks like. This is just what we're reading out here. So we're missing Derwin James for over a month, let's say. That's a huge portion of the regular season. That's a huge portion to be missing probably your best defensive player. And it's a defensive player that I feel is more important than some fans may realize. I think a lot of Chargers fans realize how good Derwin James is. They understand how important he is to this defensive scheme. Other fans may just see him as a really good player, but they don't understand how vital he is to our defensive scheme. With him going down, you can, for lack of a better term, throw out half the playbook. That's maybe being a little bit dramatic, but Chargers fans know what I'm talking about. The versatility of Derwin James allows him to line up multiple positions of the field. And because he's so good in run support and so good in coverage, it keeps offensive coordinators on their toes. You know, what is this guy going to do? Is he coming after the quarterback? Is he going to hit the gap? Is he going to, bluff a blitz and then come back out in coverage? What is happening? Because whatever he does, he's going to be very good. And it's going to be very dangerous for whatever they decide, or however they decide to utilize Derwin James in this particular play. And that happens over and over and over again for offensive coordinators. And this opens up opportunities for the rest of our defense to elevate. Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram, the crazy good secondary, Casey Hayward, Chris Harris Jr. This opens up options for everybody else in the defense because Derwin James is such a significantly different player. There's very few players in the entire NFL that can do this. You know, Jamal Adams is definitely, 1A, 1B with Derwin James. He's very, very good. And that's why the Seattle Seahawks just paid, 2 years of their future in order to acquire him. I would say Isaiah Simmons is very similar as well. One of those guys that you build your entire defense around. You scheme around this man because you'll find success in playing a game of chess instead of checkers on defense over and over and over again. So losing him is very significant. Losing Derwin James is gonna hurt this year. You're going to notice. You're going to feel the absence of Derwin James this year. So what do we do? What do we do? We know that Derwin James is important. What do we do? Well, this is where things may get a little crazy. I feel like some Chargers fans are really not going to like this. Some Chargers fans are going to agree with this, and that's okay. That's what this video is about, guys. I'm a Chargers YouTuber. I'm out here, and my job is to talk about these things. Okay? Last night when we got the news, I was on my Discord. If you guys want to join, there's tons of Chargers fans in there. Links in the description. We were going at it, man, for a long time. We were talking about it. You know, oh my God, Derwin James is going down. What do we do? What are our options? And I swooped in there, and I was like, dudes, it's time. It's time. You guys ready for the biggest 180 video of all time here? It's time we sign Earl Thomas. I said it. This is funny because a couple of days ago, I made a video on why the Chargers should not sign Earl Thomas. There are significant concerns that I still hold right now. The man may be a little cuckoo. We don't know. We're all worried about that kind of stuff because of what happened to Antonio Brown. Or is this another Antonio Brown story? I don't think so. I think maybe some people are being myself included, maybe, being a little overdramatic with the concerns of him psychologically. And I would feel like if Earl Thomas were to come to the Chargers, that, a psych evaluation would be mandatory. But let's get out of that for a second. What does Earl Thomas bring to the team? You guys kind of maybe saw this, in that video that I put out a couple of days ago. But let's go over it again with a new perspective in a new situation. This is why it's a 180, guys. I didn't want him back then. I felt we were loaded. We had plenty of safety talent. We had Derwin James. There was really no reason for us to get Earl Thomas. Now, with Derwin James going down, you bet your butt I want Earl Thomas. Okay? So, Earl Thomas, the first thing that people started telling me in the comments when I started talking about bringing him to the Chargers was, well, Earl Thomas is a free safety and Derwin James is a strong safety. Why would you supplement a strong safety with a free safety? I think some people may get those positions confused a little bit. The difference between free and strong safety is what you're asking a player to do. Free safety, playing mainly in coverage. Basically kind of like your last line of defense, okay? On strong safety, you're asking this player to do a lot more open field tackling. You're asking this player to help a lot more in run support. That's kind of what those positions mean. And the reason Derwin James was so good is because he could play both in run support and in coverage very well. So we utilize our strong safety, I would say, a lot differently than other teams in the NFL. Okay? So you take a look at, let's say, Earl Thomas, who plays free safety. What are his skill sets? What has made him such a vital piece to his defenses for however many years? It's that he does the same thing as Derwin. He's both good in run support, open field tackling, and is very good in coverage. So what's the difference he's playing free safety or strong safety? At that point, it's a preference by the team. You move Earl Thomas into strong safety, he's going to be just as good, man. He's going to be just as good because of what we're asking him to do. We're asking him to take upon himself the responsibilities of Derwin James, and he has the skill set. The player himself has the skill set to do that. Is he as good as Derwin James? No, he's not as good as Derwin James. But he's good enough to hold the fort down while we're waiting for Derwin James to return. You're not glued down to free safety, and you're not glued down to strong safety. You're glued down to your defensive scheme. And it just depends on the player's, ability and talent at those positions on where they're going to excel via run support or pass coverage. Okay? So Earl Thomas moving to strong safety, coming to play for the Chargers, great. Okay? He has the skill set to supplement Derwin James. Now, a big reason that this was even on my radar to begin with was because of Gus Bradley. I talked about this in my last video, and apparently Ian Rappaport agrees. The Chargers play the same defensive scheme as the Seattle Seahawks with defensive coordinator Gus Bradley. Earl Thomas is still a free agent, would be an intriguing option for the LA Chargers if they felt compelled to go with veteran replacement for Derwin James. Exactly Ian Rappaport. Now, Ian Rappaport isn't a coach, but he is very savvy in football. More of a reporter. He, brings out the news and stuff like that. But you have to believe that if he thinks this, there's some viability there. There's some reason to believe that that would be a good move for the Bolts. So, but the biggest thing here, like I just completely went over it, was Gus Bradley. Some people are worried that Earl Thomas was bad with the Baltimore Ravens last year, which is true. He wasn't great with the Baltimore Ravens. But I do feel like he wasn't a great scheme fit. I don't feel like they used him the way Earl Thomas was used in Seattle. What better team to come to than a team that has his ex-defensive coordinator, Gus Bradley, who built the defense in Seattle that he was thriving in, who brought that same defense over to Los Angeles, where it is now thriving, where we need a position that went down, that he plays, that his skill sets are appropriate for. What better, lining of the stars have we ever seen, where there's a guy out here that significantly can help this team out right now? I think Earl Thomas needs to come to the Bolts, man. And what's even better is that Earl Thomas puts a Band-Aid on a bullet wound, right? But I feel like it's gonna be enough for the time that Derwin James is out. Derwin James being out for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever, is gonna hurt, even if Earl Thomas is there. Think about that. Even if Earl Thomas is on the Chargers playing strong safety, it's still gonna hurt. But it won't hurt as bad, right? But what happens after? What happens when Derwin James comes back? What are we going to do with Earl Thomas? At this point, let's say week whatever, let's say the second week in October, Derwin James makes his return. At that point, we are going to have the best safety duo in the entire NFL. We're going to have Derwin James and Derwin James 2.0 at safety, both versatile players. This is kind of a reason a lot of people wanted Isaiah Simmons on the Chargers, to give us another versatile player at linebacker. Now we're going to have another one at safety. And what this does is help us at this point, because, again, we're going to be relying on our defense heavily this year. At this point, for the last 12 weeks of the season, we should have the best defense in the entire NFL because of an adding like Earl Thomas, who at that point would likely be playing free safety again, and Derwin James playing strong safety. This could give a significant boost to a playoff push at any point mid to late season. That is huge. So this is a long-term plan, man. This is a huge, I feel like, 2 days ago, I would have told you, no, I don't want Earl Thomas anywhere near this team. Now I'm telling you, with new evidence, a new situation, Earl Thomas needs to be a Charger like yesterday. But again, guys, that is just my opinion. I make these videos as topics of conversation, okay? I told you guys when I started this channel, I want to be treated like that guy at the bar you sit down next to that also happens to wear a Chargers jersey that you can yap about your Bolts with. I'm your bar Bolt buddy, here to talk Chargers with you. I'm not a professional analyst. I'm not an NFL expert. I'm a fan that wants to talk Chargers football. And so if your opinion doesn't line up with mine, that's fine, man. I still want to hear your voice. Let's just all be civil about it. All right? Guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. Let's bring Earl Thomas to Los Angeles. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty.